14 weeks to go. And I think I've been doing this in total 20 weeks now. So I guess I'm over halfway done if you think about it. Really the only thing worth mentioning is I went to Oktoberfest last night in Peoria, which was a lot of fun. I took my camera with me and took a lot of pictures, but a lot of them ended up blurry because I didn't adjust the shutter speed, which is kind of shitty, but oh well, I learned my lesson. With that being said, I'm severely hungover still, and it's 3 p.m. I ended up just staying basically in Peoria, or in a neighboring town just outside of Peoria. You know, so I didn't have to drive all the way back, especially with the amount that I drank. A lot of food vendors. I had some pierogi, I had some Bavarian pretzels, and then I had a lot of beer, a lot of different types of beer. And they had several competitions, like they had one where you had to hold out a beer stein, see who could do that the longest. And then they had a log sawing competition where you get teams of 2 and you get this big saw and you try to saw all the way through a log, and you do that for time. And then they had, I forget the name of them, those really big horns. They had 4 of those. They had people playing them, but then they ended up having a competition to see who could, I don't know, blow it the best. You know, having a camera with you is actually really fun because it comes with a lot of privileges. Like, people just let you in anywhere because they assume you're, like, employed by the venue to be taking pictures. So you can walk on stage. You can, you know, during the competitions, I could, like, cut in front of everyone's field of view to take pictures. Peoria is a cool town. It's like, it's probably the only place I've been here that isn't at the same sea level as everything else, the same elevation rather as everything else, because driving into Peoria, you're going down this road, I think it's 75, Illinois 75, and you go down this big hill and you can see the city come, and it's in like a river basin or like a valley. My ears popped as I was driving into the city. The event itself took place at the riverfront, and it pretty much under a bridge. The bridge that you use to come into the city. They had 2 big tents. They had 2 bands playing. A lot of dancing. And then a lot of kids there too. And they like to collect everyone's empty beer cups and stack them into really big towers. And then I met some people. I guess you could say I made some friends. But they basically flagged me down because they wanted their picture taken. And then I ended up letting one of them use my camera to run around and take photos. So I'm currently sending all of those. Well, I'm uploading them all to a Google Drive right now so I can send them to him, because I tried to send it on email, but obviously the amount of data that I'm trying to send exceeds the capacity of the email server, I guess, is the way to put it. Other than that, I've pretty much decided I'm just gonna let my hair grow out at this point, and then when I get sick of it, I'll just cut it. I like my barber, but driving all the way to Southside Chicago and spending $40 every couple of weeks is not preferable. And it's starting to get at that really awkward length where the shorter part of it is starting to stick up. So I'm gonna be wearing a lot of hats. Which reminds me, I got a new hat. Vortex. They make the red dot that's on my pistol. And I've also owned a rifle scope from them as well. But I ended up emailing them because I lent my gun to somebody last year, and he returned it with the battery cap missing. And I searched all over the internet looking for one, and they're really not for sale. So I ended up emailing Vortex and asking them if I could purchase one, and they offered to just send me one, and they did. And then when they also included with a part that, mind you, is no bigger than a dime, they sent me this hat, a backpack, a magnet, and a bunch of stickers, which is really nice of them. But I'm kind of a minimalist. I don't need any of this shit. I'll keep the hat, but I think I'm gonna send all the other stuff to, I don't know, Doug or Mason. Mason collects stickers. I need to update my diet a little bit. I started crunching the numbers, and I am consuming about 1,600 calories a day, which means that I'm probably eating into my muscles for energy. With the amount of activity, working 2 full-time jobs and then exercising 5 days a week, I should be eating 2,500 calories from what I gather, and in a very specific macronutrient spread. But I'm not really too concerned about the macronutrients as long as I'm getting enough of each of them. I think, you know, once you get into like dieting, there's so much information behind it that it's really dizzying trying to even approach it. And a lot of the information you find kind of contradicts other information that you find. So it's kind of hard to tell, you know, what is truthful or what is just like a social fad, or, you know. And I'm not going to hire a dietitian, although my insurance will probably cover it. Can you imagine the look on their face when I tell them what my diet is? So, yes, I need to find... I think I'm just going to keep my diet at 2,000 calories during the week, the working week. And then on the weekend when I'm doing my strength training, that's when I'm going to be doing 2,500 calories. And so when I go to Walmart today, right now I'm at the laundromat. Decided to knock my laundry out first. I usually do it last. When I go to Walmart today, I need to... Well, first of all, I need to take all of the information from the nutrition labels and put it into a spreadsheet and figure out my macronutrient balance. And then when I go to Walmart, I need to find foods to fill the gap while staying within the recommended macronutrient levels. And you know, it's really helpful that I eat the same thing every day, because I definitely don't want to plan out a whole week worth of meals. I don't want to do this more than once. And then that also means that I have to standardize my eating on the weekend, which is, I was already planning on really not going to restaurants very often anymore anyway. So that's helpful. I think the cheapest option that people usually do when they're exercising is they get whole rotisserie chickens from like Walmart. But the issue with that is I'm trying to figure out how many calories they are, and not a single source on the internet agrees with any other source. It's like insane that no one has the answer to this, even though pretty much every major grocery store supplies rotisserie chickens. So at Walmart, I'm probably gonna see how much it is. I might even get one today. I love chicken. But yeah, I got back to the gym this week and I absolutely destroyed my arms and my chest and my back. I am very sore. I went and got a massage today. and I'm still sore. I cannot wait to go to sleep. Oh, I finished reading, well, not really reading, I listened to it in audiobook format, but Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. Holy shit, that is the most violent thing I've ever read. It's really, really good. Usually I'm not into fiction because I have, like, I don't know, like ADHD maybe or something, where it's really hard for me to, like, imagine and immerse myself within a fiction novel and, like, you know, commit all of the information to memory so that when it reappears later in the novel, I can be like, oh yeah, this logically ties into this idea that was already presented earlier. Which is really weird to think about, considering that I read, like, almost exclusively philosophy, which is some of the densest and most, like, dry, like, information-ridden material you could read. And it's really easy for me to visualize those ideas. But when it comes to fiction, I don't know, it's weird. It's really difficult for me to remember anything about it. It's really hard for me to stay focused. But Blood Meridian was super, super good. I'm thinking about maybe reading No Country for Old Men or The Road, which are two more popular novels by the same author, both of which were obviously made into movie adaptations. The Road is probably the most depressing film I've ever seen, other than Graveyard of the Fireflies. If you haven't seen Graveyard of the Fireflies, don't watch it, ever. But yeah, Blood Meridian. Holy shit. And then I also delve a little bit into the philosophy of Nick Land, which is a controversial figure. He's pretty much like persona non grata in philosophy circles, because he's like, I don't know how to describe it. He's a weird dude. He basically was a professor in England at Warwick University, and he founded this group within the philosophy department called the CCRU, or I guess it was originally founded by Sadie Plant. But they used to, like, just snort amphetamines and listen to jungle music, which is like it's a subgenre of electronic music, like techno. It's a very loud and disorienting. So they used to do that, and then they'd have, like, occult rituals, and they met, like, demon lemurs and shit, and I don't know. So there's, like, different periods of his philosophy. That's the early years, but I guess what makes him so controversial is, like, later on in his career, he was introduced to the philosophy of Curtis Yarvin, which is someone that I'm also reading, who is, like, basically the poster child of the alt-right. And this is what I can't stand about, like, intellectual circles. It's like, as soon as something is labeled right-wing, it's like, ooh, you can't approach this material. It's not safe for you to read. And it's like, bro, they're just fucking ideas. It's not like I'm gonna read Curtis Yarvin and then, like, overthrow the government and install a monarchy. Like, what the fuck? That's not gonna happen. You can absolutely just engage with these ideas and read them and objectively just try to understand them outside of, like, trying to agree with them in any, I don't know, it's stupid. But sorry, Blake Erickson just texted me, if you remember him from elementary school. He's actually in Chicago right now because Jack Castle lives here. I found that out because I guess I commented on something on Blake's Facebook like a few weeks ago, and then he ended up messaging me and asking to hang out, and I said, well, I live in Chicago, and he said, well, I'll be in Chicago in 2 weeks, and I was like, what for? He's like, Jack Castle lives up there. Like, Jack Castle lives in Chicago, and I didn't even know about it. Jack Castle also went to elementary school with me, and his father was my dentist as a kid. But yeah, I think they want to get dinner tonight, but yeah, I'm fucking exhausted. I'll just catch up with them some other time. But reading Nick Land pretty much necessitates that I'm also gonna have to start reading Gilles Deleuze and Félix Guattari, which are prominent postmodern thinkers from France. So probably gonna start reading that, Anti-Oedipus, or 1,000 Plateaus. But I also want to read another McCormick novel. And I'm trying to decide between it, whether it's going to be The Road or No Country for Old Men. Or maybe I'll find something that doesn't have a movie adaptation that I've seen. You know, so I don't know what to expect. Because Blood Meridian, like, wow. It's like every other page is just like the most violent thing you've ever read. And you're just like, there's no way it gets more violent than this. And then, like, they're swinging infant babies by the heels and bashing them into rocks. And you're just like it's so violent that it's like almost unnecessarily violent. But I guess it's just like, it is necessary to depict just how violent that time period was. But yeah, if you haven't read Blood Meridian, I would highly recommend it if you can stomach the violence. It's really good. And then, you know, I pulled out my guitar, played through my songs. I do that every week, essentially. But it's kind of a hassle because the guitar is so big that I basically, keeping it in here over the weekend is a hassle, having to move around it. And it got me thinking that I might, you know, start teaching myself the violin a little bit more. I used to take lessons before I became the manager at Solgood, and then obviously my workload increased to such an extent that I no longer had the time or energy to take the lessons anymore. But you know, I got nothing but time now, over the weekends at least, and I'm pretty sure I could play a violin in the car. Although if I'm playing the last string, I might hit the ceiling with the bow. But we'll see. I might pull that out and try it. There's also a little cafe here called San Remo Cafe. I want to go check that out because they have borek, which is that dish that I told you about a few weeks ago. That I had at a European place. But they have it there, although it's a sort of like a pizzeria cafe kind of thing. But they have borek. I'm gonna go try it. But every time I go there, it's either closed or they have like they're running a limited menu. I think it's run by the mob. I'm like 90% sure it's ran by the mob. And the reason I think that is because I think they're using it to like launder money. Because every time I go, it's either closed or they're not running the full menu. And the one time that I went, I basically went up to the counter and asked them if they were serving food, and they said no. But there was two guys there sitting outside eating food, and they were speaking in Italian. So I was a little confused. I was like, you're not serving food, but they're outside eating right now. Whatever. Next week, I am going to St. Charles to do my FOIC card, my 8-hour gun class, and the testing out at the range as well. And then the weekend after that, Jack Red is coming into town. I think he went ahead and bought his tickets. So we're looking forward to that over the next couple weeks. Help give these videos a little more content, something to talk about, something to do. Now that I've pretty much kind of just standardized everything. doing the, I guess what people call the dopamine detox of like basically deleting all your social media apps so that I'm not spending all day scrolling through just mindless bullshit. I didn't realize how that was affecting my brain chemistry until this week when I went without it, because the beginning of the week it was almost like being depressed, not having that dopamine release from scrolling on your phone. Very, very weird sensation. But also, without that distraction, I've been working a lot on, like reading the philosophy of Nick Land and trying to understand all that entire era of ideas and all the music and the art that comes out of that period in London, and develop my own ideas a little bit. And it's also given me the opportunity to start cataloging all of the electronic devices that I'm going to have in the box truck, so that I can start sizing my solar system like I talked about last week. With that being said, also, I haven't talked to anyone all week, other than what was absolutely necessary. I have received no letters yet from any of my friends that I was talking to regularly. Of course, Zach and Carolyn send me letters every few weeks. I think I've got 2 now. I think so. But yeah, now I believe that is everything. Tune in next week. We're going back to St. Charles, Illinois, to do that gun course, which means it's not like I can take any video of it or anything. It's just, I did like St. Charles though. The bar scene was pretty cool. I think it was episode 3 or 4 that I went to St. Charles. I don't know. Go back and rewatch it, I guess. That's it. Peace out.